On a day in which we examine leadership, let's take a look into the leadership of Texas and welcome Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
I am doing fine, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have a bunch of issues, but it's kind of funny. A major leader such as yourself at the state level, can I get 60 seconds from you on the passing this morning of one of the great leaders on the world stage of all time, Margaret Thatcher?
The world lost a great leader in the last 24 hours. What a incredible leader, not just for the United Kingdom, but for the whole free world. The Iron Lady always did the right thing. She always did what she believed was in the best interest of the people of her nation and for the freedom of the world. And we lost a great leader who did the right thing rather than what was best for her politically.
We played a lot of audio from her this morning talking about the way the state should relate to the citizen and the ways to create wealth and the ways not to create wealth, and her criticism of socialism and her embrace of free markets. It struck me as Texas values with a British accent.
Well, I think that's true. When I went up to CPAC and spoke 4 weeks ago, and I was asked to talk about the state's roles. And it's so clear, Mark. I'm the only lifelong businessman that's elected statewide out of 29 statewide elected officials. But it's so clear to me that if you follow a model in which you protect freedom, because you can't have opportunity unless you have freedom, and you keep government as small as you can, and you keep spending low, and you keep cutting taxes. I've been involved in cutting taxes 51 times over the last 10 years, and we're going to be cutting the 52nd and 53rd this year. And you have a light regulatory hand. You make your country, you make your state irresistible for people to come in and invest.
Let's take a look at a number of big state issues right now, among them education. There's a move working through both houses to do something about it. It even has a catchphrase now, high-stakes testing. We all know about it, and your kid can get whatever kind of grades, but so much of it depends on the end-of-year testing, and there are moves afoot to bring down the end-of-course tests from 15 to 5. Well, give me your thumb on the pulse of this kind of testing and what ought to happen to it.
Well, we went overboard. We ended up with 15 end-of-course high-stakes tests, in which each of these tests were going to count 15% towards a student's grade. In the Senate, we've gone and we've said, no, we're going to make that a local option on the 15%, so that the school districts can decide whether or not they're going to count that or not. But I, for one, want to end teaching to the test, and 15 end-of-course tests is too many. The House passed us over a bill called House Bill 5. It's over in our Education Committee, and we'll be working on it over the next week or two. So at the end of the day, whether we go from 15 down to 5 or 6 or 7, there's some number, and we'll reach a consensus that is lower than 15, but still at the end of the day, we've got to have academic rigor. We've got to know how our students, how our children are doing, and we want flexibility. And I want to end teaching to the test and reduce this excessive number of days that our school systems lose every year, some 45 days on testing.
Staying in the world of schools, what's the status of getting real school choice legislation?
I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I'm...
You're close.
Yeah, I'm close. I'm real close. I think at the end of the day, if we can do it, obviously Senator Dan Patrick, who I've been working with, obviously Governor Perry would be very, very supportive. But I am determined to fight this. We have had this battle over and over again for years, and this is all about the children. We've got to focus, Mark, on our children and not our education labor unions and some of the bureaucrats. We've got 530 different campuses that are academically unacceptable, meaning that they're failing. They represent 315,000 children that are trapped in failing schools. And historically, a lot of times it takes school systems 3, 4, 5, 6 years to turn the schools around, and that's unacceptable. We can't leave them in there that long. That's why I'm working on with Senator Patrick in the Senate, and we want to work with all of our colleagues in the House, but a parental trigger. I've been pushing for 2 years. We may have to compromise at 3 years, but at the end of the second year, which is what I want, if the school's not turned around, it's not a good school, the parents can go into the PTA with a 50% plus one and dismiss the principal and the teachers and bring in a high-performing independent school system or a high-performing charter. I want to lift the cap on charters because we've got great charters in this state. At the same time, we've got a few bad ones. In fairness, we need to close those down. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that no child, not to pick up on...
No, you're sure you want to go there?
We want to make sure that
I know what you mean.
All of our children have a chance.
You bet.
To have a world education, and that's why I'm supportive of tax credits that are deductions off our business tax, don't take a penny out of our funding for schools, but that if the school administrations are not, they're asleep at the switch, they're not turning the school around, we cannot leave our children in failing schools.
You bet, and they are being left behind.
Yes, they are.
In schools that are suffering mightily under their own sloth and occasional incompetence. I'm energized by the notion of this kind of parental power, yet it's funny when you talked about 50.01% can overturn a principal and a school hierarchy. Are we a little worried about the occasional hissy fit that might arise in the occasional school district? I mean, a majority rule is a lovely concept, but how do we keep people from being thrown out on their ear just from a momentary passion thing, or where people get a hold of something and it may or may not be a great idea?
Well, Mark, what's your experience? I mean, mine is when I'm going into school and I'm trying to get a feeling as to who the good teachers are and who aren't the best teachers. If I can find some parents in that school, the parents know who's a good teacher and who's not, and at the end of the day, by and large, parents like their good teacher for Johnny or Susie. I'm worried about just the opposite. I'm worried about that the parents will just bend over backwards for too long, and more than 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, and it'll take 6 years. And by that time, little Johnny and Susie are so far behind that they may never catch up, and that's not fair.
We're sort of dealing with pure education, but that's okay. We'll be talking a lot, and we'll do other issues other days.
We need to talk about Medicaid.
Let's do for a final couple of minutes. But last thing on education, it's hard to get some Republicans to avoid feeling the pressure of those who say that school choice is tantamount to using state money to fund people's kids' private education.
It's not. It's not. At the end, we're going to maximize in the legislature the amount of resources that we put in our schools. Even in 2011, when we were replacing the stimulus dollars, we had to reach into our pocket and put $5.2 billion new money in so that we could have more money into public education than we had before. But so we're going to do everything we can for our schools. But again, you got to focus, in my judgment, you've got to focus on the children. At the end of the day, we've got these schools, and there may be new schools that are simply not turning themselves around for whatever reason. And is it fair to leave that child in that school? And I believe no. At the end of the day, if a child's not getting a really great education for years and years and years, it's going to set them back, and that's not fair, and that's not going to happen on my watch.
All right, final couple of minutes with Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst. The country is looking at Texas, and many are saying, don't cave on this Medicaid expansion. So tell me you're not going to cave.
We are not going to cave. Just last Monday, a week ago, we had a big press conference, and I said the same thing I've been saying since the whole subject came up last year, and that is we have to do what's in the best interest of the state of Texas. And our current Medicaid system is broken. It's broken. Our costs have gone up. Yes. You tell me, how much do you think our costs have gone up in just one decade between 2000 and 2010?
Easy double digits, I would think.
Yeah, 135%.
Triple digits. Oh,
all right, 135%. So we're expanding 13.5% per year. Unsustainable. Medicaid will soon threaten to bankrupt not only Texas but every single state. It's like the drug dealer who will give you your first hit for free and then you're hooked. Why in the world would you want to expand a broken system? You wouldn't. And so there are a lot of people out there, a lot of people that hear these numbers that the state's going to receive billions of dollars more than they have to pay. That's not going to happen. It's almost like the drug dealer analogy. Right now, this administration doesn't blink an eye. They're okay with having trillion-dollar deficits. At our press conference last week, in which First Governor Perry stood up and said he was 100% against expanding a broken system. And I came up and then I said, in essence, I was 101% against it. And then we had Senator Cornyn stand up and say roughly thing, and then Senator Cruz, and then Congressman Barton, and Congressman Burgess. But in talking with the congressman, I've talked to a number, our Republican House of Representatives isn't going to borrow money from China forever, $1 trillion a year to cover these expansions with broken systems. And so the federal government is not going to do what they say that they're going to do. That's why for the last 7 years I've been working on free market reforms, which our hospitals and a number of our physicians are endorsing, are following. We want to solve the problem using the free market, the best models, best practices. We think that with our hospital care and et cetera, we can save up to 25% and improve our health care, keep our hospitals in the black, and cover more people.
Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you. We appreciate the update. I know we'll be talking soon. Thank you.
All the best, Mark.
Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst.